The whole dining room went silent when my mother lifted my bill in the air and said, "My daughter cannot pay this." Every fork stopped. Every glass paused halfway to someone's mouth. I sat at table 7 beside the tall windows of Meridian, the most expensive restaurant in the city, with a half-finished glass of red wine near my hand and a birthday candle still unlit on the dessert plate the chef had sent early. Across the room, my mother stood near the manager's desk like she owned the building. She did not. That was the problem. She had spent my whole life speaking as if every room belonged to her, while I learned how to build rooms she would never be invited into. "Amy makes barely enough to cover rent," she said, loud enough for 3 tables to turn. "Someone here talked her into ordering an $800 bottle of wine. That is shameful." My father stood behind her, one hand pressed to his tie, his face tight with that calm disappointment he always wore when he thought I had embarrassed the family. "Amy," he said, not angry, which somehow made it worse. "This has gone far enough. Let us fix it." I looked down at the bill in my mother's hand. $2,300. Dinner for one. My birthday gift to myself. The kind of gift I allowed myself once a year, not because I needed luxury, but because I needed one night where no one called my life small. The manager, David, kept his voice low. "Ma'am, the guest ordered everything herself." "My daughter doesn't understand money," my mother snapped. "She never has." A woman at the next table lowered her eyes. A man near the bar pretended to read his menu. The room tried to be polite, but shame has a sound. It moves through people quietly. My mother turned toward me with a soft smile, the one she used when she wanted cruelty to look like concern. "Honey, it's all right. We know you wanted to feel special tonight. But this is not responsible." I set my napkin beside my plate. "I'm fine, Mom." "No, you're not." She gave a small laugh, almost sweet. "You work with computers in some little office. What do you make? 40,000? 50 if they're generous?" My father cleared his throat. "We are not trying to humiliate you." I looked around the silent restaurant. "You're doing a strange job of it." His jaw tightened. My mother's eyes flashed, but she quickly softened again. That was her gift. She could cut you and then offer a bandage before anyone saw the blood. "We're your parents," she said. "We're allowed to worry." Worry. That was the word she used when she told my aunt I had no ambition. Worry was what she called it when she bought me grocery gift cards for Christmas while laughing that I would probably forget to budget. Worry was how she explained why she introduced me as our Amy. She does something with data while my cousins were doctors, lawyers, and real estate brokers. Worry was a clean dress she put on shame. I picked up my wine glass and took a slow sip. The sommelier, Marcus, stood near the wall, frozen between duty and discomfort. He knew better than to step in without my signal. David did too. So did the hostess, who kept glancing at me with apology in her eyes. That was the first clue my parents missed. The staff were not watching me like a woman about to be rescued. They were watching me like the final decision belonged to me. 3 hours earlier, I had walked into Meridian alone. Not lonely. Alone. There was a difference, though my family never learned it. The hostess smiled the moment she saw me. "Good evening, Miss Chin. Table 7 is ready." Table 7 was mine, even though no plaque said so. A corner table with glass on 2 sides, where the city lights looked close enough to touch. I had sat there through contract reviews, menu tastings, silent celebrations, And one night after a failed expansion when I needed to remember losing money did not mean losing myself. Tonight, I had come for my birthday. 28. No party. No family dinner. No love cake in a house where I would have to listen to my mother explain my life to other people. Just a quiet meal in the first place that had taught me what my name could mean. Marcus had poured the 2015 Chateau Margaux before I even asked. "Happy birthday, Miss Chin," he said. "Thank you." For almost 20 minutes, the night was peaceful. Then my mother's voice cut through the front lobby. "Absolutely not. We have been waiting 3 years for a table." I did not turn. I knew that voice from childhood. It could make store clerks shrink, neighbors smile too hard, and my father pretend to check his phone. The hostess apologized. Meridian was fully booked. It was always fully booked. My mother said my father's business name as if it were a key. Richard Chin Properties. Check again. I closed my eyes. Of all nights. Of all rooms. They had chosen this one. My father said something lower. My mother said something about discrimination. Then I saw David approaching from the corner of my eye, uncertain. I texted James, the general manager. "My parents are in the lobby. Seat them at 12. His reply came fast. "Are you sure?" I looked across the restaurant at the empty table near the center aisle. Close enough to see me. Far enough to give him a chance to behave. Yes. They were seated with stiff smiles and wounded pride. My mother complained about the lighting, then the wait, then the menu. My father opened the wine list and closed it again as if it had bitten him. For a while, they did not notice me. I was halfway through my first course when my mother leaned forward. "Is that Amy?" My knife paused for 1 second. "Where?" my father asked. "By the window." I kept my eyes on my plate. There was a silence, then my mother's small laugh. "What is she doing here?" Maybe a stranger would have heard only surprise. I heard the insult underneath. My father said, "Maybe she is meeting someone." "At Meridian?" My mother's voice dropped, but not enough. "Please." She probably saved for months just to sit there. I ate slowly. I had learned a long time ago that answering every insult is a way of letting people rent space inside your head for free. They made it through their appetizers before curiosity became stronger than pride. My mother came first, my father behind her. "Amy," she said, bright and false. What a surprise. I looked up. "Hello, Mom." "Dad." Her eyes swept over the table. The wine. The plates. The staff member waiting nearby. "Are you waiting for someone?" "No." "By yourself?" "Yes." Her smile tightened. "At Meridian?" "That's where we are." My father shifted. "Amy, this place is very expensive." "I know. We just don't want you making a mistake," he said. "If you need help with the bill, tell us now." "I don't need help." My mother touched my shoulder like I was 10 years old and had dropped a glass. "There is no shame in needing your family." I looked at her hand until she removed it. "There is shame in assuming I do." That should have ended it. It did not. My mother's face changed in that tiny way most people would miss. The softness stayed, but the warmth left. "We'll have them put your bill with ours," she said. "No." "Amy." "No, Mom." My father frowned. Don't be difficult. I'm having dinner. They returned to their table, but I could feel their eyes on me. My mother whispered. My father stared at the wine bottle. A few minutes later, she stood again. This time, she did not come to me. She went to the manager. That was when the night turned from uncomfortable to unforgivable. I watched David listen with his hands folded in front of him. I watched my mother point at my table. I watched my father join her, adding his quiet authority to her performance. Then her voice rose. My daughter is being taken advantage of. A waiter stopped beside the kitchen doors. She cannot afford this. Someone coughed. I placed my fork down carefully. The strange thing about public humiliation is that it does not always feel hot. Sometimes it feels cold, like your body has stepped away from you and left you sitting there with a straight back and steady hands. David said, "Ma'am, I assure you, that is not the case. Show me the owner." The owner is not available at the moment. Then find someone who is. My father took the bill from the leather folder. His eyes moved over the numbers. His mouth went tight. Amy, he called across the room, come here. I did not move. He walked toward me with the bill in his hand. Did you read this? Yes. Do you understand it? The question landed harder than the amount. Do you understand? As if I had not spent 12 years understanding things they never cared to ask about. I thought of the first cafe near my college campus. Broken espresso machine. Unpaid vendors. A landlord ready to lock the door. I had been 18 with $40,000 from my grandmother Rose and a folder full of numbers everyone told me were too risky. I thought of sleeping in the storage room after closing because I could not afford both rent and payroll. I thought of the second shop downtown, the lunch counter nobody wanted because the street was under construction. I bought it cheap, changed the menu, paid off the debt, and sold it before my mother finished telling people I had dropped out to find myself. I had not dropped out. I had graduated early. But my parents liked their version better. Their version made sense to them. In their version, I was the daughter who needed advice, not the woman who gave it to bankers. Amy, my father said again. Do you understand what you ordered? Yes. My mother came closer now, holding her purse against her chest like a shield. She doesn't, she told David. She does basic computer work. She has no idea how places like this operate. I almost laughed. No idea how places like this operate. Behind David, the hostess looked down fast. Marcus turned away. They knew. But my parents did not see any of it. They only saw the daughter they had built in their minds. Small apartment. Old Honda. Simple clothes. Quiet at family dinners. Easy to pity. My mother lowered her voice, but not enough. Did someone give you money? Are you in debt? Is this some man? No. Then what is it? It's dinner. For $2,000? It's my birthday. For 1 second, something flickered across my father's face. He had forgotten. My mother did too. I could see it in the way her mouth opened and then closed again. But shame makes some people gentle. It made my mother louder. That does not excuse foolishness. I looked at my father. You forgot my birthday. He looked away. My mother's grip tightened around the bill. This is not about that. Of course it was not. It was never about the thing that hurt me. It was always about the thing that embarrassed them. David tried again. Sir, ma'am, perhaps we can move this conversation to a private office. My mother snapped, we are not hiding in an office while this restaurant scams my daughter. That word moved through the room. Scams. I saw James step out from the back hallway then. Tall, calm, dressed in a dark suit, his expression controlled except for the quick look he gave me. A question. Do you want this stopped quietly? For years, that had been my answer. Quietly. Quietly let them assume I was struggling. Quietly declined their reservation requests when they name-dropped my father's company. Quietly sit through Sunday dinners where my mother asked if I had thought about a more serious career. Quietly build, buy, hire, expand, survive. Quietly become everything they said I could not be. James approached the manager's station. Good evening, he said. I'm James Morrison, general manager. I understand there is a concern. My mother turned to him with relief, finally seeing someone she believed had power. Yes. Your staff allowed my daughter to run up a bill she clearly cannot pay. James glanced at the bill, then at me. His face did not change. Miss Chen is a valued guest. My mother gave a sharp laugh. A valued guest? She works in data. I'm not allowed to discuss a guest's personal matters. She is not just a guest. She is our daughter. I stood then. Not fast. Not angry. Just enough that the chair moved softly against the floor. The whole room seemed to hold its breath. Mom, I said, stop. She looked at me like I had embarrassed her again. No. I will not stop. I want to speak to the owner. James looked at me once more. My father folded the bill and placed it on the manager's desk, as if it were evidence. Yes, he said. The real owner. Not a manager. Not staff. Whoever owns this place needs to answer for what happened tonight. My mother pointed toward my table, toward my wine, toward the life she had never bothered to see. Bring the owner here now. I looked at James. Then at the restaurant my parents had tried to enter for 3 years. The restaurant where they had never once been refused because of bad luck. The restaurant where every declined reservation had passed across my desk. James waited. So did my parents. So did every person in that room. I picked up my glass, took one final sip, and set it down with care. Go ahead, I said quietly. Bring her. James did not move for a second. That was what made my mother impatient. I said bring the owner, she snapped. James looked at her with the same calm he used when investors raised their voices in meetings. She is already here. My mother blinked. Then where is she? The silence around us changed. It became heavier, sharper, like every person in the dining room had leaned forward without moving. James turned slightly toward me. My father followed his eyes first. Then my mother did. For one long second, nobody spoke. Then she laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was quick and thin, the kind people use when the truth walks too close and they need to push it away. Amy, she said. This is not funny. I know. You expect us to believe you own Meridian? No, I said. I expect you to listen. My father's face went red. Amy, stop this. I had been stopping for years. James stepped to my side, not in front of me. He knew better than to rescue me from a truth I was finally ready to say. My mother looked from James to me, then back at James. Is this some kind of loyalty performance? Did she ask you to lie? James's voice stayed even. Miss Chin is the majority owner of Meridian and the managing partner of Chin Hospitality Group. The words crossed the room like a match in a dark hallway. My mother's lips parted. My father stared at James as if he had spoken in another language. No, he said softly. That is impossible. I almost smiled at that word. Impossible had been their favorite name for me. Impossible for Amy to handle money. Impossible for Amy to choose the right career. Impossible for Amy to build anything serious. Impossible for Amy to be sitting here, calm, while the life they never saw stood behind her with documents and staff and keys. My mother gripped the edge of the manager's desk. She works with data. I do, I said. Revenue data. Market reports. Cost control. Growth strategy. Payroll. Expansion models. You told us you had a small job. No. You told everyone I had a small job. I stopped correcting you because you never heard me anyway. My father shook his head slowly. A restaurant like this costs millions. Yes. Where would you get millions? I didn't start with millions. James opened the folder David had placed on the desk. He had not been told to bring it, but James always prepared for storms before they broke. He slid the first document forward. The paper moved across the polished wood with a soft sound. A business license. Then another paper. The deed. Then a third. Chin Hospitality Group. My mother stared at the name. Her own last name looked strange to her now that it belonged to something she had not controlled. That could mean anything, she whispered. James tapped the document once. Majority owner and CEO. Amy Chin. My father reached for the paper, but his hand stopped before touching it. How long? He asked. I knew what he meant. How long had I kept this from them? How long had they been wrong? How long had their pity been standing in front of proof? I bought Meridian in 2019. My mother's knees seemed to weaken. She lowered herself into the nearest chair. 2019? Yes. You were 23. 23, almost 24. You were living in that small apartment. I still live there. You drove that old Honda. I still drive it. My father's voice came out rough. Why? Because the apartment is quiet and the car works. That answer seemed to disturb him more than the money. My mother looked up fast. Then the grocery cards we gave you. I used them for staff holiday raffles. Her face changed. Not enough for apology. Enough for shock. My father swallowed. The rent help we offered? I own the building I live in. The room stayed silent. Even the kitchen doors did not swing. My mother pressed 2 fingers to her temple. This is too much. No, I said. Tonight is too much. This part is just the truth. She flinched, but I did not soften it. Not this time. My father stared at the papers again. Numbers had always been his safe place. He trusted them more than feelings. How many restaurants? 17 properties total. 12 in this state. 5 outside it. His eyes lifted slowly. 17? Yes. And Meridian? The strongest brand in the group. James added, practical and clean. Last year, the group cleared $42 million in revenue. A quiet breath moved through the room. My mother looked like someone had taken the floor away. My father closed his eyes. For years, they had measured me with the wrong ruler and called me short. Now the numbers were too tall for them to look at. My mother's voice broke for the first time. Why would you hide this from us? I looked at her. Really looked. At the expensive blouse. The perfect hair. The face that had smiled at relatives while turning me into a warning story. Because I needed one thing in my life you could not correct. She stared at me. I kept my voice low, but everyone near us heard. I needed to build something without your doubt sitting at the table. Without Dad asking if I had a safer plan. Without you telling Aunt Linda I was confused. Without anyone calling my choices irresponsible before they had even begun. My father said, we would have helped. No, Dad. You would have supervised. There is a difference. He looked away. That landed. My mother wiped under one eye quickly, angry at the tear more than the reason for it. We were worried about you. You were embarrassed by me. That is not fair. It is true. Her mouth tightened. She wanted to argue. I could see the old habit rising in her, the need to win the room back. But the room no longer belonged to her voice. It belonged to the documents. To the staff standing quietly. To the bill she had waved like proof of my failure. To the name on the deed. I took the bill from the desk and folded it once. This meal is mine. This restaurant is mine. This choice is mine. My father looked at me then, not as a child, not fully as a stranger, but as someone he was seeing through a window he had kept closed for years. Amy, he said quietly, what are you worth? My mother whispered his name, but he did not take it back. I could have refused. A part of me wanted to. Not because I was ashamed, but because their interest had arrived dressed as numbers, not love. Still, I answered. Personally? After debt, taxes, reserves, and operating structure, around 18 million. My mother made a small sound. My father's shoulders dropped. 18 million had done what my tears never could. It made them quiet. James gently cleared his throat. Miss Chin, would you like me to move this conversation to the office? No. My mother looked relieved for half a second, thinking I had spared her. Then I said, we're done. She looked up. Amy, please. No. You wanted the owner. You spoke to her. I turned to James. Comp their meal tonight. Add it to my account. Of course. My father's face flushed again. We can pay. I know. But tonight you came here believing I needed help. Let me show you the difference between help and control. My mother whispered, that is cruel. I stepped closer to her, not angry, just finished. Cruel was forgetting my birthday and still finding time to shame me on it. Her eyes filled again. This time she did not argue. I went back to table 7. No one clapped. No one spoke. That would have made it cheap. Instead, the dining room slowly returned to life. Forks moved again. Glasses touched tables. A waiter crossed the floor with careful steps. Marcus brought out a fresh dessert. One candle. A small golden flame. Happy birthday, Miss Chin, he said. His voice was gentle. Thank you. I looked at the candle for a moment before blowing it out. Behind me, James guided my parents back to table 12. They sat like guests in someone else's house for the first time in their lives. They did not finish dinner. My mother asked for the documents again before leaving. Jane showed her the business license, the liquor license, and the deed. My father stood beside her, silent, reading every line like the truth might change if he found a comma out of place. It did not. When they walked out, my mother did not complain about the service. My father did not mention his company. Neither of them looked at me. That was fine. For once, I did not need them to. James walked me to the back exit after the last plate was cleared. The remaining wine had been sealed in a black carrier, the way Marcus always did it. "Are you all right?" James asked. People ask that when they already know the answer is complicated. "I'm not sure yet." He nodded. "They asked if you would have lunch tomorrow." I laughed once, without humor. Of course they did. I told them I would pass it along. I stood beside my old Honda in the owner's parking space behind the restaurant. The car looked almost funny there, under the security light, surrounded by vehicles worth more than some of my first investments. But I loved that car. It had carried me through the years when success was still a rumor only I believed. "Put them back on the regular waiting list," I said. James gave a small smile. "For Meridian?" "Yes." "Not priority?" "Regular." His smile faded into something respectful. "Understood." That night, I drove home with the wine in the passenger seat and 17 missed calls on my phone. 12 from my mother. 5 from my father. I turned the phone face down on the kitchen counter of my small apartment and poured one glass. Not to celebrate the money. Not even the reveal. I drank to the girl who had kept going when nobody asked where she was going. The next morning, I agreed to lunch. Not because I was ready to forgive. Because I was tired of silence doing all the work. We met at a small cafe across town. I did not own it. I chose it for that reason. Neutral ground. My parents arrived early. That alone told me they were nervous. My mother had no lipstick on her coffee cup. My father had a folder he never opened. For a while, none of us spoke about Meridian. The waitress brought coffee. My mother thanked her twice, too softly. My father stared at the menu as if he had never seen breakfast before. Finally, my mother folded her hands. "We are sorry." I waited. She looked at me, and this time her face had no performance in it. "We made you feel small." "You did." My father's jaw moved once. "I let it happen," he said. "Sometimes I joined it." That was more honest than I expected. My mother's eyes shone. "We thought we were pushing you." "No," I said. "You were placing me in a corner and calling it guidance." She nodded slowly, like each word had to pass through pride before it reached her heart. My father leaned forward. "I called 2 people I know in hospitality." Of course he had. The old me might have rolled my eyes. This time I let him finish. "They said your name before I finished asking. One said you are one of the best operators in the region." I looked at him. "Did you believe him?" He looked down. "I believed the documents first." That hurt. Then he added, "But I should have believed my daughter before paper made it easy." My mother covered her mouth. For the first time, the apology did not feel like a strategy. It felt unfinished. But real. They asked questions after that. Actual questions. How did I know which restaurant to buy? How did I turn the first cafe around? Why did I keep my lifestyle so simple? What did I want next? At first, I answered carefully, waiting for correction. None came. My mother listened like she was learning a language she should have known all along. When lunch ended, she touched the edge of her napkin and asked, "Can we come to Meridian again?" I looked at her. There it was. The old door. The chance to let them step straight into the place they had tried to use against me. "You can make a reservation like everyone else." Her face fell slightly. I added, "I'll tell James to accept it." First available table. My father nodded. That is fair. It isn't forgiveness, I said. My mother's eyes lifted. It's a start. 3 months later, they came back to Meridian. Table 12 again. Not table 7. Some things have to be earned slowly. I watched from the bar as they sat down. My mother kept her voice low. My father asked the server for recommendations instead of pretending he already knew. When Marcus sent out a small welcome dish, my mother asked what it was and thanked him by name. Small things. But small things had hurt me for years. So maybe small things could heal something too. They left a tip so large the server thought it was a mistake. It was not. Near the end of the night, my mother looked across the dining room and found me. She did not wave me over like a child. She stood, walked to me, and stopped with both hands at her sides. The meal was beautiful, she said. I'm glad. Then she looked around the room, not with ownership, not with envy, but with something close to wonder. You built this? Yes. Her eyes came back to mine. I wish I had asked sooner. That sentence did not fix everything. It did not erase the years. It did not return the birthdays, the dinners, the quiet drives home after being made into a joke. But it reached a place in me that money never had. I nodded once. I wish you had too. My father joined her a moment later. He placed something on the bar between us. A Costco gift card. For one terrible second, I thought he had learned nothing. Then I saw the writing on the envelope. For your staff holiday raffle. He looked embarrassed. Your mother said you used the old ones that way. I stared at it. Then I laughed. Not loudly. Not bitterly. Just enough to let the tightness in my chest loosen. My mother smiled through tears. My father cleared his throat. We would like to learn who you are now, Amy. If you'll let us. I looked past them at table 7 by the windows. The candlelight moved softly across the glass. The city shone beyond it. My restaurant breathed around me, steady and alive. For years, I had thought victory would feel like proving them wrong. But that night, I understood something better. Victory was not making them feel small. It was refusing to shrink myself so they could feel right. I picked up the envelope and slipped it into my pocket. We can start with dinner, I said. My mother nodded quickly. My father looked down, relieved. They left a few minutes later, quieter than they had entered, but lighter too. James came to stand beside me. How did it go? I watched my parents step outside, not as rulers of the room, not as judges, just as two people learning the cost of late truth. It went as far as it could for tonight. He smiled. That's something. Yes, I said. It is. After they were gone, I walked to table 7 and stood by the window. 12 years before, I had been a girl with a check from her grandmother, an idea nobody believed in, and a family that mistook silence for failure. Now my name was on doors, licenses, paychecks, and deeds. But the most important thing I owned was not Meridian. It was the right to know myself without waiting for anyone else to agree. Some families only see your worth after the world writes it down for them. But by then, you must already know it for yourself.